Hello everybody, Roberto Parker here with Innovative Sports Training. Welcome to another Health Detective Talk. Today I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle. We're going to talk more about sports performance. Now typically I talk a lot about weight loss, hormone, nutrition, maybe a certain disease type process, lifestyle assessments. Today this topic is more for you guys out there that have young ones that are young athletes. Maybe you're an athlete yourself competing for an event, training for an event. And really, as I said before, we are all athletes. Now, do we all train like competitive athletes? That's a different story. So let's get into this. How do you build a better athlete? Before I got involved in my own private practice, I was a strength and conditioning coach for about 19 to 20 years at the collegiate level and a little bit in the NFL level. And I tell you what, it was a great experience. I branched out on my own about 15, 16 years ago, and I've loved it ever since. I learned a lot as a strength coach, but that's where I cut my teeth. So I have a little bit of a knowledge about training athletes, plus I do it here in my own private practice. Now, if you're going to train an athlete, there are two separate frames of mind here, you might say. Both are good. I'm not going to discount either one of these. The conventional method, and what I also call the foundational method, or some call it functional training. Now, I came across this about, probably 15, 20 years ago, which was a big reason I got in my own business, because I wanted to train athletes from a more functional perspective. But if you talk to most coaches out there will subscribe to this type of thinking, which I said before, is still good. They look at brute strength, they look at strength. Now the difference between these two is brute strength is someone more like a football player, a wrestler, a boxer, MMA athlete who wants to have just overpowering type of strength to beat their opponent. Now strength, just pure strength, is good too, because that's more for an athlete like a golfer, a swimmer, someone who's a soccer player. They don't really need brute strength in order to be competitive. I hope you can tell the difference there. Speed. I don't know of any athlete who does not want to improve their speed. Big time. When athletes come to me here for training, most times, out of all the areas that they want to improve in, speed is the most talked about area where they want to improve. Speed kills, as they say. Agility. How well do you change directions? Going from left to right, and right to left, forward and backwards, agility. Quickness. Now quickness can be speed of feet, speed of hands, speed of jumps. You just want to outquick your opponent. Toughness. Who doesn't want that? You want your athletes to be tough. Because if you're not a very tough-minded person, you should not be a competitive athlete. Because there will come a time you will be up against it. Now here's one that's kind of a vague statement. And I've dealt with a lot of coaches over the years. They tell their athletes, just eat healthy. Well, what do you consider eating healthy? Because as I've talked about in the past, there are so many avenues to eating healthy. Are you paleo? Are you keto? Are you South Beach? Do you just eat the standard American diet, SAD, SAD? Or you just eat? You just eat what's in front of you just to try to put some weight on. When I was a young athlete, playing high school and college sports, that's what I did. I knew nothing about nutrition. I just ate. And all I knew was I just wanted to eat and put on some weight and put on some muscle. And unfortunately, that's what many athletes try to do. They think they're eating healthy, maybe because they drink just milk, or maybe they just have a salad for dinner, but they go out and snarf down a pizza every night, or maybe a couple times a week. That's not really eating exceptionally healthy, in my opinion. But I could do a whole topic on this, which I'm not going to do. Now, over here in the foundational phase of this is something that I really advocate quite a bit, and I still spend time over here on the conventional side too, don't get me wrong. But in order for an athlete to acquire brute strength and strength, emphasize stability and mobility. You have to be stable within your joints. You have to have good joint integrity, your shoulder, your neck, your elbow, your knees, your back, your ankles. You have to have good joint integrity, stability. as how well those joints maintain their position as you're performing as an athlete. Because if you don't have good stability, and I'll talk about mobility here in a second, if you don't have good stability, you will compromise strength. You might be very, very strong in the weight room, but you may not have very good stability. I wrote an article about 3 or 4 years ago called "Don't Leave Your Game in the Weight Room." I'll put that at the bottom of the video here so you can read that. Don't leave your game in the weight room. Improve your stability. I'll tell you one quick story. When I worked for the Kansas City Chiefs, probably 18, 19 years ago, we had a young man there who could bench press 400 pounds, but he could not do a push-up on the stability ball. He lacked stability. Mobility. Now, mobility, some people think of that as being really flexible. That's not necessarily the case. You can be very, very, very limber, flexibility-wise, and not have very good mobility. Mobility more involves how well you move, how well you have, you can balance stability combined together. Really is what it is. That's mobility. In addition to having good flexibility. In other words, you could be a person who does yoga all the time, who's very, very flexible, but you get them in an athletic situation, competitive athletic situation, and they don't have very good mobility. These two right here are very important for injury prevention. 3-dimensional movements. There's the linear plane, called the sagittal plane. There's side-to-side, left and right movement, called the frontal plane. And there's rotational movement, called the transverse plane. I'm really big on those, because if you don't train in all 3 dimensions like we move through space, you will become injured. If you're very strong in the sagittal phase, which, and oftentimes, I'll admit, as a young strength coach, I was guilty of this. Our main movement was squat, bench, power clean. All sagittal 1-dimensional movements. As I evolved as a strength and conditioning coach, I learned more about moving multi-directionally, going straight, angle, backward, twisting, bending, lunging. That will help you more as an athlete. I've seen athletes who are very, very strong in the sagittal plane and very weak in the transverse plane and the frontal planes. They don't necessarily become injured, they're just not as productive in those planes. You ever see an athlete who's very fast, straight ahead, but he or she can't change direction very well? That's what I mean right there. That athlete is too one-dimensional. Okay, now, the next one is be active. Now, I advocate this for every person, whether you're a competitive athlete or not. Be active. You don't need to go to the weight room every day and try to kill yourself, but be active every day. Walk, ride your bike, swim, cycle, canoe, paddleboard. Do some playful activities just as part of your day off. Just don't sit on your butt and play video games. So be active and move around every day as much as you can. That will also help you become a more stable, mobile athlete. Toughness, once again, you got to be tough, tough-minded. Now here's a big difference between just eat healthy and getting more specific. Feeding cycles with training. There are certain phases of your training where you want to eat less and eat more. I know, I just said that, didn't I? There's certain phases where you want to eat less and eat more. Because eating less can help detox the body. Eating more helps you put bulk and muscle onto the body. And you have to cycle that with the type of training you're doing. Now, I've done a couple blogs on this. The ELEM and ELEL, eat less, exercise less, eat more, exercise more. And I can go further into it than that. But that's good to do. You don't want to do the same thing all the time, because it's like anything else. If you do the same thing all the time, the way you eat and the way you train, you'll start to plateau and you won't make any improvements. Now at the bottom of the chart here, the board, I have a pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, the base is foundation. That should be the core root of your training. After a few months or a few weeks of training, you move up to more conventional training. So once I have an athlete who can stabilize and mobilize, who's multidimensional, who's active, who's tough, and on the right feeding cycle, we're going to transition to do more brute strength, speed, agility, quickness type movements. So you don't want to start out with this. You want to start here first. That's why it's called foundational. The next one up is maximize your performance. Now this is usually during your season. And I could go into a whole dissertation on in-season training. It depends on the sport you're in. But you want to maintain as much as you can during the season. You will lose some strength, possibly, more than likely will, during the season, but not necessarily if you do it right. Once again, it all depends. You have to train your feeding cycles and your training cycle. Now, guys, I hope this has been educational for you. Now, I know everybody's not an athlete out there, not a competitive athlete, but here's the thing. If you want to train like an athlete, look like an athlete, you got to start doing what athletes do. That means being smart about it. Just don't go in the weight room and pound heavy weights and then just go do wind sprints. There's more to it than that. You have to get more specific. You have to get more multi-dimensional, not just in how you move, but how you think up here about your body and your training. So guys, if you have athletes out there, or if you're an athlete yourself, you want to pick my brain a little bit, I'll be more than happy to talk with you. Come do some training with me. Come do some biomechanical assessments, some sports performance assessment, which I will do. Some nutritional, hormonal assessments. I'll be more than happy to work with you on that. I'll give you a one-time 30-minute free consultation to see if it's a good fit. This has been Roberto Park with Innovative Sports Training and the Health Detective blog. My number is 816-405-7703. Email is rwpsports@yahoo.com. Guys, take care. God bless. Bye-bye.